Welcome, folks, to the Healthy Habit Podcast, episode number 230. I'm your host, Dr. Dayan of Healthy Habit Medical Center, located right inside Healthy Habit Health Foods. And, folks, this is going to be a good one here. We're talking with Mr. Dan Chapman, founder and CEO of Redd Remedies, and a lifelong advocate for whole body wellness. First time having Dan on the show, so this is going to be an exciting episode. His passion for natural health was sparked by his mother's healing journey and grew through decades of hands-on experience in the natural products industry. While managing Sunrise Health Foods, his family's health food store, Dan identified gaps in the supplement space and began formulating targeted, high-quality solutions to meet real needs. With a foundation in faith and a commitment to purity and efficacy, Dan launched Redd Remedies to help individuals feel better so they can live better. So we're going to be talking all things the obesity lie here today. What is it exactly, not just the symptom, and changing your diet, exercise, that won't necessarily change the problem. We're going to dive into things like Alzheimer's, mood disorders, inflammation, neuroinflammation, and much more. So Dan, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here with you today.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into this important topic. It's a big issue. It's a common thing we do here at the stores, help customers, but also patients here on the clinic side with weight loss, dealing with obesity. And it's an important thing. We'll talk about GLP-1s and much more. So where do you want to start us off with here from the top?
Maybe we should just talk about what is the issue here?
Yeah,
What are we trying to solve, right? And so oftentimes, especially on the topic of being overweight or obese, no matter where you're at kind of on that spectrum, we know that 3 out of 4, I'll say, of us here in the United States are overweight.
right.
And we've been told for so many years that the problem is the weight. And when you're overweight, it causes all of these health issues in the body, right? And we can go down that whole list of health issues. When you're overweight, it causes blood sugar issues and it causes cardiovascular issues and it causes inflammation and it messes with your hormones. And we can go on and on and on of all of the things that being overweight does to you. But in my mind, like that's the lie.
Right.
That's actually not true.
Mm.
Obesity or being overweight is part of the symptom. It's not the problem. And so when we continue to focus on that symptom, I think that's why being overweight has been a problem for decades and decades, and it's going to be a problem for decades to come
Yeah.
if we don't really think through what is the real problem that we're having here. And the truth is, the problem continues to be our diet and our lifestyle. And I don't want to, just go back to the simple things, but to be honest, that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
If we look at our diet today, our diet is causing metabolic disease. And it's interesting, 88% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy. So is it being overweight that causes that? Or is it the truth is our diet is actually part of the cause there?
Interesting. Yeah, it's an important question, and there are definitely tons of lies that we're being told about obesity. There's no question about that. Like you said, everybody's dealing with, and even if you're slightly overweight, it can easily become obese. There's different what we think of as obesity. It might be actually morbidly obese individuals, but it's very, very common, and that percentage is just ticking up every single year of number of Americans dealing with obesity. So tell us a little bit about GLP-1s and this movement towards that
Yeah.
medication and that tool to help people lose weight. What are your thoughts on that? Any thoughts on the GLP-1s?
Yeah, that medication, this semaglutide,
Yep.
drugs that are increasing the amount of GLP-1 and the activity, I'll say, of GLP-1 in the body has brought like a new spotlight on what it means to be healthy weight-wise, right? And we look at this drug, and there's no doubt that that medication will cause you to lose some weight.
Right.
Notice I say it won't help you, but it will cause you to lose some weight. And so there's a lot of individuals that are desperate to lose some weight. And I do understand that. I understand that it can be very difficult, very challenging. to be, at whatever weight level you as an individual deem to be healthy or where you want to be. And so there's a lot of individuals that are looking at these medications, using them, seeing some of this quote unquote successes in losing some weight, but not understanding the risk. And I think in the big picture, not understanding there is another solution, there's another way to solve this problem that's actually long lasting and healthy for the body. Because I view achieving healthy weight as not the ultimate goal. Like it's a
Mm,
ought to come along with the
right.
ultimate goal, which is to be healthy in the body. And so if I want to think about, well, what is it that I'm focused on to be healthy? Because that's just a really big topic as well. My goal here is to be healthy metabolically. And the way that I do that is it absolutely involves the food that I eat. And my main focus on food needs to be the amount of sugar in the food that I'm eating. And what can we do to reduce that sugar that I'm eating? And then what else can we layer on to that supplement wise that will help my body manage or deal with the fact that our food supply today has unbelievable amounts of sugar that are hidden into it. So, when I say, hey, just cut down on sugar, I'm not talking about just eat less candy. There is sugar that is hidden in everything that
Yeah.
we eat today, causing us to, like, on average, I mean, we're consuming 5, 6, 7 times the amount of sugar that we might consider to be healthy.
Hmm.
So the challenge is significant. And so we have to not only just reduce that in diet, but then we have to layer on some supplements that are going to help our body deal with that. So I just want to make sure, like,
Right.
that's what I'm after. And when we look at what GLP-1 is, so let me just go back to answering your question very
Yeah.
specifically to make sure that your listeners understand what is GLP-1. So it's a hormone that is naturally occurring in your body. It's a hormone that you produce when you eat.
Yep.
And that hormone is doing a couple of different things. It's stimulating the production of insulin. That's important. We eat, we need some insulin, right, to manage and break down the
Right.
sugars. It's helping us to feel full and satiated. That's an important thing that it's doing. It's slowing the movement of food through the digestive system. That's important. We want our food to hang out in our stomach for just a little while so that stomach acid can do its job to digest and break down that food well. But understand that naturally occurring GLP-1 is active in your body for a few minutes. And that's it. And that's all it ought to be active. We don't want to stop the movement of food. We don't want to, like, continue to produce insulin more and more and more.
Yeah.
And that's what these medications are doing, is they are causing GLP-1, they're altering it to be active in your body for an entire week, which is why normally you need that injection once a week.
Right.
And you can, like, put things together pretty quickly to realize that a hormone that should be active for a few minutes, but we're causing it to be active for a week, has the real potential to cause some issues in our
Right.
bodies.
And what are some of those side effects that people should be looking out for with something like Ozempic? And yeah, tell us about that. Things like Ozempic face. Tell us
Yeah.
about that a little bit more.
So the number one side effect that people experience from, let's say the whole class of semaglutide medications are digestive related. Over 80% of people will experience a digestive related, side effect, if you will. And it makes sense that that's going to be the number one issue, because that's a significant thing that GLP-1 does naturally in the body.
Right.
Again, slowing down the movement of food to the digestive tract. So the people that will feel nauseous or, vomiting or constipation, or the opposite, diarrhea or bloating or gas or heartburn, or a combination of all of those things, is significant. And we know that all medications have side effects. That's the nature of a drug. When you alter something and make it chemically, your body is going to react, maybe in a few positive ways that we might view them, but often in very negative ways. To have a side effect rate of over 80% is really, really significant. And then, of course, the fact that it does cause individuals to lose a fair amount of weight,
Uh,
and sometimes relatively quickly. And so
right.
what's deemed as Ozempic face, or, Ozempic other parts of the body, is really just You can look at your body and you look malnourished, you look a little bit pale or sunken in the face,
Right.
and that's just essentially what happens when a body is malnourished. And that's what happens when you're not going to digest food well and you're going to cause significant disruption through the digestive tract. You're not going to absorb nutrients in the food that we're eating, and that's going to cause lots of issues.
Incredible, folks. You're tuned into a good one here. Episode number 230 with Dan Chapman, CEO of Redd Remedies. And we're talking all things the obesity lie, dispelling some myths, if you will, here that obesity is a symptom, right? There's an underlying issue here with the metabolism going on. We've covered the GLP-1s. What are they? The complexity of that world. And Dan's even mentioned diet, how this is an important role, of course, that we need to address before just trying to suppress the symptom, right? So that's an important thing. I'm going to do a quick screen share here on a product I want to plug in called Crave Stop, like stopping bad cravings. The name of the product, again, is Crave Stop. You'll see that right at the top of the label there. And this is through Redd Remedies, designed to support metabolic health. So tell us about Crave Stop, Dan, and how does this fit into the picture? How can this potentially help someone? We're not saying this is going to be the end all be all, but when someone's trying to lose weight, improve their metabolic health, their thyroid, their insulin sensitivity,
Mhm.
and lose weight on top of that, supplements can be a great part of the overall picture here that can help us reach that goal, right?
Absolutely. I appreciate your summary on that because I want to be clear. What we're not trying to do is find a replacement for a medication. We're not trying to find a replacement for just pushing GLP-1. That's actually not what we want to accomplish.
Right.
What we're looking for is metabolic health, which equals then healthy weight. And that's what Crave Stop is designed to do. It's a formula that we put together over 10 years ago now, that is designed to create balance in your blood sugar cycle. And why is that important? It's important when it relates to weight because when we have high insulin levels, when high insulin levels happen when our blood sugar spikes throughout the day, every time we eat and we're consuming too much sugar, it causes an insulin spike. Your
Uh-huh.
body, when you have high blood sugar, produces extra insulin to counteract the high blood sugar. So when we have constant high insulin throughout the day, that actually causes our body to burn glucose for energy. When we're burning glucose for energy, what we're not doing is burning fat for energy.
Mm.
So high insulin causes energy from glucose, and our body then takes that fat and leaves it into our fat cells and doesn't utilize it well. When we balance our blood sugar cycle and it naturally rolls up and rolls down and rolls up and rolls down as we're eating balanced meals throughout the day, then our insulin levels are healthy or lower. And what happens then is we're actually using that stored fat for energy the way that we're supposed to,
Mm.
and weight comes down to that level that it ought to be. That's how Crave Stop helps your body not just like get rid of the cravings and all of the other issues that goes along with consuming too much sugar, but we're actually normalizing and balancing that metabolic process in the body, which causes us to simply feel good. And again, as a result, achieve a healthy weight.
It's a good breakdown, yeah, and especially, the more weight that we put on, the more obese an individual gets, the weaker that insulin response is, right? So they're less able to utilize that glucose. So more insulin's required. It's like this constant negative cycle that's happening, a
Exactly.
negative feedback loop. The more weight that happens, the less you're able to utilize the fuel, the more the body has to pump out insulin. We want to be insulin sensitive, right, Dan, instead of insulin resistant. That's what diabetes is.
You're 100% correct. That is exactly right.
And so I'm going to do a quick screen share here. This is straight from reddremedies.com. And give me a moment here to pull that up. Red with two D's, REDD, remedies.com. This is Crave Stop. Protects you against the hidden sugars in food. And we're not talking about bananas and oranges type of sugar, grapes, berries, pineapple, kiwi. We're talking about like the highly processed, high cream one that like brownies, donuts, cookies, cupcakes, even French fries, which have the sugar in there as the carb, plus they're dunked in rancid oils and deep fried. Like these highly processed types of sugars, you know, it's an all-time high, right? This is a big issue right now in society, and it's happening all over the world now. It's spreading even from the west all the way to the eastern part of the world here. This product's designed to support a healthy appetite. Tell us about NC2. NC2. You can see it right here on the front of the label if I zoom in. So tell us about
Perfect.
NC.
Yeah, absolutely. So Crave Stop is a blend we put together of four different really important mineral and some botanicals. And in situ specifically is, I'll say, the star of the show here. In situ is a patented extract of two different brown seaweeds that has a significant amount of research behind them. In most of the studies, you'll see NC2 combined with chromium, an essential mineral also for blood sugar balance. And so when we put NC2 and chromium together, a couple of the studies that are important to understand is, first of all, that blend goes to work in the body from the very first dose. We have studies that show in one dose, we can take a blood sugar spike and reduce that spike by 39 to 48% in a single dose.
Mm-hmm.
We have further studies that show that if we use that combination of NC2 and chromium for 6 months, there's two main studies I'll quote here. The first is a study on pre-diabetics. So these are individuals that are already very unhealthy metabolically. They're
Yeah.
classified as pre-diabetics. And in 6 months with no diet changes and no exercise, so no exercise whatsoever, what we see is that 18% of individuals after 6 months are no longer pre-diabetic, and over half of the individuals saw dramatic improvement. And what's significant to me about that study is we know that if you're pre-diabetic and you don't change something about your diet and or your lifestyle, you are not going to get better.
Right.
And so that's a significant study for me. Um,
Wow.
there was a follow-up study that also put individuals on that combination for 6 months. And part of what they were determining in this study is the improvement in overall metabolic health. And we saw a 27.7% improvement in 6 months with a population group of 505 people that were on this. So it was a big study, not just a few dozen, and a
Yeah.
significant improvement over that period of time.
Interesting. Yeah, and again, this is going to be so the NC2, it has the demineralized polyphenols in there, plus the healthy appetite blend. And then there's the chromium. So it's like a three-part blend here. The gymnema. And I like that it's the American ginseng root specifically. That's exactly the one that the research has shown has extra blood sugar supporting benefits, plus all the other similar benefits to the other ginsengs: Asian ginseng, red ginseng, white Korean ginseng. But the
Mhm.
American one in particular does a really good job with helping with insulin, metabolism, and that whole blood sugar response. And so, what would be a suggested use here? You can see like 1 to 2 caps, 20 to 30 minutes before each meal. How do you see people typically dosing this? We're not giving any formal medical advice here, Dan. We're
Right.
just kind of saying what you've
Yep.
observed.
Yeah. So if we look at the studies, the reason we have a range in dosing here, one or two capsules, 20, 30 minutes before your meal, is there's a number of studies on this supplement that would coincide with that one capsule, twice a day dose.
Uh
There's
huh.
a lot of studies, the longer term studies on prediabetes and metabolic health, like I talked about, use that higher dose of two capsules twice daily. And so the way that I would recommend individuals consider which dose do you want to be on is the amount of, I'll say, work that you need to do. If we've got a little bit of weight to lose or a little bit of issues metabolically, that
Right.
lower dose is absolutely going to work well for you. If we've got a lot to achieve, let's start at that higher dose. Do that for a couple of months. Let's see the progress that you make there, and then decide whether you continue at the higher dose or go down to the lower dose. But again, we know that it has a dramatic improvement in the first time that you take it. It starts to work immediately, and then the results continue to improve over time.
Makes sense. Yeah, great breakdown. Thank you for that. And again, folks, this is the Crave Stop from Redd Remedies, REDD Remedies. Again, healthy glucose metabolism, supporting a healthy appetite, and then protecting against the negative impact of sugars and highly processed foods. It's an award-winning formula, uses third-party tested ingredients to support your brain and body's fight against the negative impacts of stress, sugars, and improper diet overall. So tell us, so one thing that we check a lot, Dan, is fasting insulin levels when people are presenting to the clinic for blood work. In addition to fasting glucose, we even check hemoglobin A1C percentages, which gives us like a 3-month average trend of blood sugar, very common for testing for diabetes, pre-diabetes. But fasting insulin is key. You know, I like to see it under 7. A lot of preventative naturopathic doctors, they like it under 10 definitely, if not under 6 or 7. Why is that important to have a lower fasting insulin?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is a good indication of your body's capacity to produce insulin at an appropriate amount, so that when you're eating your meals, you're not overproducing. And again, when we look at why do we want insulin to be low, when our insulin is low, and I'd almost rather frame it as insulin at a healthy amount, right?
Right,
When insulin is healthy, and healthy is generally low,
right.
that's when our body is going to burn carbohydrates when we eat. And then when we ramp back down in between meals, our energy is going to convert to fat as that energy source. And that's what we want to happen throughout the day. We want to eat. And then, of course, we get some energy from that glucose for a short period. We transition to burning that fat for energy, and the cycle continues in a healthy manner, as opposed to high insulin, which means that your body never transitions from the energy source being glucose to fat. It stays on glucose all day long. And that's when our fat cells grow and multiply, because that energy source that in our fat cells stays there, and our body does not allow us to open that up and utilize it. So even though we we might have plenty of energy in our body, you're still going to have a feeling of I need to eat. I need to eat. I want more food. I have this craving, because your body has insulin that needs to be satisfied with more glucose. So
Gotcha.
that's where those cravings come in. So we want to have a nice rolling blood sugar and insulin to go along with that. And that's what Crave Stop helps us with.
Yeah, and insulin promotes weight gain, you know. So this is classic. This is known in the bodybuilding world, in the physique, competitive, natural bodybuilding type world. And so if that's constantly high, especially when you're fasting, then it's going to be harder and harder to lose that stubborn body fat and get your ratios corrected where you have more fat-free muscle mass and less fat mass overall. Lowering your fasting insulin helps play a role in that. And with these last couple minutes, I want to at least introduce Enjoy, I-N-Joy, J-O-Y. Why is this a common pair with Crave Stop? And then we'll see how much time we have. We can at least introduce it.
Yeah, I'll just give you a quick overview of that. So we do use Enjoy along with Crave Stop for individuals where the eating is much more stress related,
Got it.
or there's a lot of just emotion going on. And I know that can easily go along, with individuals that are struggling to lose that weight. And probably the main thing to understand about Enjoy is it's going to help modulate that stress response so we don't stress eat. The other thing that Enjoy is doing that's very important is it's helping to balance neurotransmitters, and dopamine is one of those neurotransmitters. So when we eat sugar, and lots of other things cause us to produce dopamine, but dopamine is this neurotransmitter that when we get it, it feels really, really good. It's like the
Uh-huh.
reward neurotransmitter. And that neurotransmitter is not something that we're easily satisfied with. So I get a dopamine hit, and it actually causes me to want another one. That felt really good, so I want another one.
Right.
And so when we eat sugar, we're getting another hit of dopamine and another hit of dopamine. Enjoy helps us to balance neurotransmitters out, so we're not getting that really significant dopamine hit that feels kind of addictive. So when we
Uh-huh.
balance that and modulate stress, it really does a great job of partnering with Crave Stop to help individuals that are habitual eating or stress eating and that type of thing.
That's great. You're hitting it from the emotional, psychological aspect as well, deeper with this product, which is good. Supports a positive mood, emotional strength, naturally uplifting. Well, because if you're under a lot of stress too, that throws off your digestive ability, right? You're going to be shunting a lot of blood to the extremities, preparing for flight or flight, to run away, from a stressor and attack, instead of having blood get to the gut to help prepare digestion for a good, healthy meal that you're about to have. And this has tyrosine, 5-HTP in there, holy basil. It's one of my favorite botanicals, schizandra. But yeah, I've used holy basil a lot clinically. Really, really good for stress, anxiety, nervous system health. So would this be, it looks like 2 capsules a day with food would be the most common starting point, but obviously it's not formal advice, correct?
Yeah, and with this one, it is 1 capsule in the morning, one more in the afternoon or the evening. That's a full dose. It's the right dose to use, and you can take it, right along with your Crave Stop, which again, that one is should be about half hour or so before your meals. So
Right.
you can take this at the same time, and that way it makes it easy to get them both in.
And by the way, if you're not someone that's dealing with, weight issues necessarily, your metabolism's good, you're not obese clinically, but you're looking for anxiety, stress support, maybe some sleep, this product might be on your radar as well. Just for that, you don't have to combine this with Crave Stop, right? So this can help. These are just a blend of adaptogens, which, as the name suggests, it helps us adapt to all the different stressors in our life. So it can be combined with the Crave Stop, but it can also be taken alone. Is that right, Dan?
Absolutely. Both of these formulas stand on their own, and they can
Perfect.
certainly be taken separately. And we have many of our customers that do that. But especially for individuals that are struggling with weight and metabolic health, we know that that's both physical and emotional. And so that's where this combination becomes a really powerful tool just to help that individual get to the place that they want to be.
Founder and CEO of Redd Remedies, folks, Dan Chapman. I thank you for your time, and I love the things you guys are doing at Redd Remedies. And I thank you for joining us here on the podcast for a first time. I look forward to our next one.
Hey, it's been my pleasure. Great to be with you today.